tiptoe around with face of a stranger. Quiet observer, never get too close. I see the world, but it's through this window. Another side to see, I'm ready to know. Not every story's written on a sleeve. Some stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why, I wanna know why you're the way you are. He's from the city, she's from the south. Two different chapters told miles out. Their back row living in his White House. So many stories that I need to know. Not every story's written on a sleeve. Some stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why, I wanna know why you're the way you are. So many stories right in front of me. Some people climb to heights I've never seen. Too many falling down off their feet. These stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why you're
close this too. Hello, everyone, and we are now live, I think. Someone double check me and make sure that you see us on all the appropriate places. You are tuning in. Hopefully, you're tuning in to Silver Sunday. This is things we don't. This week we're talking about things we don't want to see the protag do. We might talk about some other things too, and you'll notice that my setting is a little different. Generally, my son Brett is the one who does kind of all of our producing, but it's his birthday, and his gal has him out treating him to a night on the town, and so I'm trying to figure out how to do all this on my own, and so I'm hoping that
if you lose this, it's Roland's fault.
That's right, and I'm only seeing 2 of the 3 things here. It's not connected to Facebook for some reason. Why is his little... Oh, I hope I didn't just mess something up. So, there's a chat that you can do. So you guys know, let's see, restream. It's a restream thing. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to see all of the chats coming in from the different platforms. So we can see the chats from Twitch, chats from Facebook, and the chats from YouTube all in one place, and that you can then respond to them in that one place. But for some reason, in this little thing he's got, so I'm gonna have to figure out how to see if I can't close this a little bit and then open up the whoops, that didn't work. And then open up the actual chat. You know what? It wouldn't surprise me if he was tuning in right now, just laughing to see what I'm doing from wherever he is at. So let me try
It's our VCRs.
Yeah, pretty much. I think I can close this. All right, I closed that. That worked okay. And I think I'm going to close that. But it's still not connecting to the Facebook. Why is it not connecting? Facebook event not live, it says. Can you guys see it on Facebook?
I can see it. It looks delayed a little bit, but it is going.
Okay. But for some reason I'm not seeing any of the that's a question mark and an error here. Dashboard. Sending data to Facebook, sending data to Twitch, to YouTube. All right, it's sending data. Let me see what it does. This will be an interesting start. My daughter told me that that she could hear the music on the start that we usually play, but the clock wasn't counting down. The clock was up there, but it just came up as 0, and so nothing happened. We're currently investigating an issue affecting Restream chat. Currently, it appears some users are not receiving Facebook messages in Restream chat. We expect this issue to be resolved shortly and appreciate your patience as we look to resolve this problem. So apparently it's the Restream, and oh crap, I just messed it up now. So let me try to get it open again. We'll try this one more time and then we'll take off. Chat. Open in a browser. And I'm still only connected to the 2 platforms. So if I'm going to see Facebook, what am I going to need to see? I'm going to actually have to... Whoops. What happened here? Can one of you guys maybe try to monitor the Facebook messages for me? One of you, any of you got it open? Kurtis, you have it open?
Sure. Let me pull it back open.
Okay. Oh. There we go. Okay. So this is Silver Sunday. We're going to have some unusual challenges this week, and we appreciate you hanging with us. I got my list again of things that I need to make sure that I do as we go through and get this thing kicked off. First thing we're going to do, like we did last week, we're going to update you on all the Kickstarters. So for those of you who backed the Kalis 1 and 2 Kickstarter, we are still waiting on artwork from Argentina. I got an email from Lewis just today who said that he checked with his post office and it is still stuck in customs. I have checked with my local post office to see if there's anything that I can do on my end to kind of catch it, and they have given me something that I can attempt to do, but I can't do that until after it's gotten out of the hands of the Argentinian post office and in the hands of the U.S. postal system. So we're waiting on that. Divinity and Twilight Grim Kickstarter. Those are 100%. Those are 100% fulfilled now, and the only package I have left to send is the package of comp copies to Alex, who is in Mexico. So all of those packages are now streaming their way to you. You should get them fairly soon. If you don't get them, say within the week, let me know, and we'll try to track them down and see what happens. But all of those should be out. Friar Rush and Bloodline, as of what's today? Today's Sunday. As of Friday, no, maybe it's Thursday. As of Thursday, all of the books have been delivered to Kablam to be printed. All of them had been delivered early except for the flip book, which has the thank you page. The thank you page is completed, and that was delivered to Kablam. It's a big book, as you might imagine. Had to use Dropbox for that. And it is all in the hands of Kablam now. So hopefully we can get some books printed and get speeding along the way in the U.S. postal system on its way to you. Next Kickstarter is going to be coming in about 1 month. I'm not at my desk. I'm at my son's desk, so I don't have my calendar in front of me, but we're looking at approximately 1 month. It's going to be a shorter Kickstarter this time. We're going to try something, but we'll be kickstarting Cat and Mouse #3, as well as a new book, Trump's Book 6. Book 6. I'm looking at my numbered list here. Trump's Book 1. And we also have a merch store that I'll make sure that I put in the link below here. So that's the updates for you. I am Roland Mann. I am the host of this. I am the chief wrangler at Silverline. Oh, I have a Razorback shirt. My shirt looks really red in Brett's screen. So, and so that's me. Normally, we have Brett who would be working behind the scenes for us, but it is his birthday tomorrow. So his gal has him out and about on the town. I can't remember if I said that before we were on or after we were on, but I want to make sure that you know why I'm doing all this stuff today. And this is stuff that he usually does. So I'm going to be trying to experiment and figure out how some of this behind-the-scenes stuff works. So if I mess that up, I beg your forgiveness. So, introduce Murderer's Row. Kurtis, tell folks who you are.
Hi, I'm Kurtis Fujita. I'm the creative director at Silverline. I'm also an artist with experience in comic books, video games, and animation. And I'm the editor on Kalis. And I'm going to hand it over to my partner in crime, Aaron Humphres. Aaron, take it away.
Yeah, I am the illustrator, or the pencil, I guess, on Fire Rush, and I do my own comic, Gollings, which you can find on webtoons and stuff. And hopefully, I will be doing more stuff for Silverline in the future. Yeah, I think that's it.
Fingers crossed.
The fingers crossed. If I forgot anything, I guess it's just gonna be gone to the wind. Yeah.
So how far along on Godlings are you? You finished 8 last week, right?
8, yeah, and I've finished the first 3 pages of issue 1, so I should be. Yeah, I go pretty fast.
Yeah. Three pages a week. That's a good speed.
So usually 3 pages, I would say.
Now is that complete pages?
Maybe 6 pages.
Penciled, inked, lettered, and colored.
I don't ink the pages. So
that's
the
right.
pages
Yeah, you talked about that last time.
Yeah. That's what's speeding me up, is I'm skipping a little bit of a step. I'm cheating, I guess you might say, but it's speeding me up.
You're taking advantage of the technology. It's not cheating.
I am. That is. Yes, I am. I'm taking advantage of that. So
next up, we have John. John, tell folks who you are.
Hey, I am John Martin. I am the resident Prince Voltan and Viking of Silverline.
That's right.
There you go, Roland, just for you.
I appreciate that.
I'm the inker for Friar Rush.
Much love to you, brother.
I'm the inker on Friar Rush. I'm currently working on issue 2. And who knows what else Roland will throw my way. Hopefully some more Especially with conventions being the way they are.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
almost non-existent. But other than that, I mean, that's about it.
Jamming right along, right?
Just I'm sitting here. I'm sitting here working on pages right now.
Sweet.
I'm working on pages and working on another Fry Rush sketch.
Nice. Very cool.
It's kind of like a mirror. It's Jake gonna have the same background as the Seraph.
Okay.
One that ended up being the variant cover.
Might become a variant. I think I saw the sketch in the group chat, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Hopefully, I trying to make his hair look more realistic. Hopefully, I did that okay, Aaron.
Oh yeah.
Sweet. And now we introduce.
Real quick, sorry to interrupt. Just technical issue. Just everybody in our chat here, all our creators, just double check your Facebook message for an important update about some technical things going on during our live stream.
I don't.
And our Silver Sunday.
Yeah.
And I'll let Roland.
I don't have access to mine. Oh no.
Okay.
How do you do that?
Sounds like we're in trouble.
I'll email it to Roland and I'll email it to your Gmail. Okay?
I may have to turn it over to someone
I
and
just
run
typed,
go check.
okay.
Now we're gonna get to our international contingent. First up, Sid. Tell everybody who you are.
Hi everybody, I'm Sid. Currently I'm being the colorist for the coming project called Trumps that's gonna be up in September, right?
Yep.
September. That's it. Short and precise.
So Sid, you're joining us from where?
Right now I'm in Chile. I don't know why I keep saying I'm Chile right now. It's
right
been
now.
like that.
Yeah.
I'm from Chile.
You know, when you're a world traveler like yourself, you have to remember what country you're in, right?
Sometimes. Yeah.
So what time is it there?
I'm on the night. Right now it's 9:30.
Oh, really?
9:13.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why I was so messed up and I couldn't get in time. I was like, this is fine. I have 1 hour left, and then I see, guys, we're online. I'm what?
So you're in the exact same time zone as I am then.
Yeah, but we're very close to change times for savings. So I'm a little messed up right now. I thought it was this week, but apparently it's not yet. So I'm here. That's what's important.
That's what's important. That's right.
I'm here, of course.
And the other part of our international contingent, Pete.
Hoi.
From across the pond.
Actually occupying the bridge of the Starship Enterprise tonight.
Show off.
And it is not 9 p.m. where you are.
No, it's 2 a.m. in the morning.
And we appreciate.
This is where I get my most work done.
That's dedication.
Isn't that the truth for all creators though?
Yeah.
It's when
this is good. It's quiet. No one's disturbed me.
That's
no
right.
one wants me to take them to the shops. It's great.
Well,
no one needs
no one's on the
answers.
bridge.
That's right. No one needs you to do something. You don't have to open jars. You don't have
Working the night shift.
You know, you don't have to
working
answer
night shift on the
questions.
Enterprise.
On the Enterprise, yeah, it's very quiet.
Now, what would be funny is if there was a little maid come along by vacuuming the bridge. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind if Drax come over. I would love to see Drax one day.
My dog's sleeping on the sofa right now. He's the only one that comes and joins me this time in the morning.
All right, guys. So today we've got an interesting topic. Today we're talking about things that we don't want to see protagonists do. So I think we can approach this from several ways. I think we can look at this as things that we don't want to see our protagonists do, right? In the stories that we create. Like, I don't want to see my protagonist do this, right? But also maybe things that we don't want to see the protagonist of entertainment that we consume do, right? When you go to a movie or when you read a book, what are the things that you don't want to see the protagonist do? Anybody?
And Roland, if I can interject real quick, we got some people in the live chat.
Yeah.
Hello. So let me just pass the word along.
Let me see if I can figure this out.
We have Kasisi saying, hey, guys. Hey, Kasisi. Stephen Brown says hi. Tommy says, what's up, peeps?
Hello.
Stephen Brown says specifically, hey, Roland. And
what's up?
Wubba says, hola.
Hey, Wubba.
And let's see. Pablo Taku says, and I'm gonna slaughter this. So
that's from my
Isa,
side.
please forgive me.
Hello.
I know. So let's try this. It's gonna sound horrible. So buenos noches, Master Isa Sid Venturini. Le deseo lo mejor del mundo.
Hey, that's really good.
Not bad. All right.
Yeah.
I've
Hi, Paulo. Let's see you again.
no idea what you said, but I'm just
I'm
gonna.
so lost.
I'm
It's
just
okay,
gonna
neither
say
do I.
I believe you.
But the point is, Sid knows.
Wishes.
Sid knows.
His wishes, just giving good wishes.
Okay.
And I think that's very
good.
kind.
Very good.
Alright.
Very good. Good.
Let me.
Sorry about
But
that, Ron.
that's
Just wanted to
good.
make sure
That's
we
good.
keep
We're,
updated.
we're going abroad. Now you know this is an international show.
It is.
That's good,
Hey.
right? Then you need to start putting captions now. You know. It's good,
You know,
right?
so on Facebook we actually do.
It's auto generated.
I think it
It's
does.
auto-generated and it's not very
Oh,
good.
dope. No,
You
it's good.
entered an old
It's nice.
password.
Great.
Uh,
So let's see. You were saying we were talking about who is what we don't want to see our characters do, right?
I
yes.
think was it our characters or was it any protagonists?
You
Or
know,
we're starting out with our characters.
whatever strikes you, whatever strikes you first. I think it's okay for us to talk about both. In other words, I didn't because I thought about it. It's like I don't want to just limit this to things that are our protagonists because we might think about I don't ever want to see James Bond do this, or I don't ever want to see Captain America do this, that kind of thing.
I don't know. I mean, there's a part of me that depends on what it is. I know the big one is like the idea of like especially superheroes killing people, which has gotten more lax. But that used to be the big thing, especially with Batman. That was. But of course, I mean, it's funny because he actually said, I've had discussions with people where you talk about like, realistically, could Batman do what he does and not inadvertently kill somebody? And it's like, no, it's almost impossible. He would kill somebody. I mean, either from like eternal damage from like hitting somebody, something like that. Yeah, like somebody was going to die in the process of what he does. It may not be by his hand, but it would happen. Which made me sometimes when he breaks that in certain iterations of Batman, I'm just like, oh, okay. I remember I played a video game where he drove a Batmobile and he kept slamming into the people, but he would electrocute them and they would bounce off the Batmobile, and it's like, dude, they'd be dead. Like the guy
it's Arkham City, right? No, Arkham.
Yeah, that one we kept.
It's amazing, and these people just flies like 20 feet away. There's no way. But I guess that was the Batmobile. It wasn't Batman.
Yeah, you can blame it on the Batmobile, dude. I was just driving it. I mean, it's got a mind of its own.
Well, if it's a random goon, right? It's kind of like don't ask, don't tell kind of situation.
Yeah.
But if it's like the Joker, right? Then we acknowledge it. But if it's just some random thug,
Yeah, it's like whatever. Yeah.
There's no attachment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind if there's things, but like if things diametrically go against like the whole meaning of the character, and they come out of nowhere, Star Wars. I don't, necessarily like when things happen, So, it's just that's my view.
Do you have problems with the new Star Wars movies, Curtis?
I didn't say anything. My name is Paul, and this is between y'all. So I'm gonna take a sip of my water. Oh, that's good water.
My problem with some characters' protagonists doing things. I know you were still doing. You were still going. Go on. Continue.
Yeah. John, what do you think? What are your thoughts? Do you have any qualms about a character's do something that would just completely you would lose it on him?
Well, I'm very much open to character building, and I understand that there's sometimes you got to push a character to certain points to build upon them. So I'm kind of open to that.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely have to. Sometimes I remember the whole there was a big pushback when they made Captain America like an agent of Hydra, and it's like, yeah, but that's not going to be permanent. That was just a story. It's like they want you to be interested in finding like, why would he do that, instead of like, no, we can never read it and we must admonish everyone who looks at it. And it's like, okay, that's not really, So I understand, and sometimes it's kind of hard for writers because you want your character sometimes to break character a little bit for story to get people to read it, because like, why would he do that? But now it seems
you got
almost
to add a new wrinkle sometimes.
yeah, just a little bit.
I've been writing since I remember with friends, and more than once I would get into the situation when you have this very well,
they want you to be interested,
character
finding
and
like,
you're
why
super
would you do
satisfied
this?
with it,
They're
but
like,
then you get
no,
stuck,
we can never read it.
and it's
We
just
must
like I
admonish
don't know
everyone
what
who
to do with
reads
it,
that.
and then you
It's
take
like,
a
yeah,
risk
it's
of
not
like a
really,
little what if
so I
happens,
understand. And sometimes,
and most of the time you end up like quite surprised because if the character is well built, when you put him in a very strange or how you say like improbable situation, if
yeah,
the character is well built, it's gonna react accordingly, even though it's doing something he has never done before. So I think that's sometimes it works. My problem is, I don't know if it's the character, it's more like a writing problem when they make the character go through something that he hasn't done before, or something that changes him, or something that's really important. And then within the next few episodes, or just a little time after, it's like nothing happened. It was like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
let's move on. That's it. If something important is going to happen, I would like at least something to stay within him. But I don't
Yeah,
know. I think that's more to the writing more than the character.
there's a lot of stuff they've done with characters in Denver, and there's certain stuff when they that they've made
There's some
changes and
stuff I wish
stuff.
they
Yeah,
never happened. For example, what they did with Dick Grayson or
yeah,
Rick Grayson. I really wish that did not happen,
but
but it
yeah,
happened. So
Well, in the live chat here, Wubba chimes in. Wubba's saying, he says one thing that he wouldn't want to see, he doesn't want to see cat and mouse eviscerate a person. Probably one another. Besides, probably nobody besides Cray could get away with it because he's a barbarian.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Tommy's giving a shout out. He says, "Big woo woo to Sid and to Pete."
Ahoy.
So.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah. Okay, so
Feel left out, Tommy. I thought we were cool.
I know.
I'm kidding.
Pack your bags. We're going on a guilt trip.
that's
I
right.
know.
jeez.
I don't think there's anything a character can't do. I think even heroes can do really bad things. That's just something they're gonna have to come back from, I think. Or they don't come back from it and you create a morally ambiguous hero.
Yeah.
I think you can okay, okay, there's some certain things you can't do.
Right. Yeah.
I don't want to say them.
And I think that's the things
that's
that
not cool.
Yeah, I think those are the kind of things that we're sort of looking for. Is that what do you not want to see? Like I can remember I heard while I was trying to get some of this done, I heard the talk about the Captain America and the Hydra thing. Yeah. I mean that was my thought as well. I mean my thought was like, okay, number one is just a story, and that's not something that you can't return from. However, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to preface this with, I think Mark Gruenwald was was certainly one of the top-notch Marvel people ever, right? His story, he wrote a story in which Captain America killed somebody. And that's not something that you can come back from, right? I mean, you can do a lot of things. You can have characters cross into some of that grayness, but you can never undo Captain America having killed somebody, right? I kind of feel a little bit the same way about Batman. Not Batman. Superman, although not quite as strongly, just because I don't feel as strongly about Superman. But in the movies, right, when he killed
Zod.
He killed Zod.
Yes, thank you, Zod. Yeah. Zod is like kind of like, I kind of had a problem with that, I'm like, no.
Oh, really?
I did. Yeah, it's like, no, this is Superman.
Well, he killed him in both movies.
Say again?
He did kill
Superman
him.
2, he killed him in Superman 2 too.
And
That's why I always think like it's funny when people complain about the new movie, like they killed him in the old one, he threw him into the ice.
Yeah.
He was normal. He would have died from exposure.
It's like he had no powers at that point.
He would have died almost instantaneously going in the frozen water. So yeah, he killed them both. He crushed his hand and killed him. So I'm like, but nobody seemed to have a problem with that. But the new one, it's like, well, no, it's okay. So
you're saying
like
the Christopher Reeve version he did?
Oh yeah, he killed him.
Oh, he killed him dead.
Man, I don't remember that. It's been too long since he killed him dead.
Yeah, he reached down because Zod put his hand down to go basically like kiss my hand, worship me. And Superman grabs him and crushes him, picks him up, and then throws him against the wall, so it falls in the ice flow because he's told like he was a normal human. When he fell into the ice being normal in Arctic ice, yeah, he was dead. He's not getting out of that.
He was very dead.
I'm not a Superman expert, but I always thought a lot of people would die whenever he fought a Metropolis.
Yeah.
So much stuff
So
crazy.
see,
actually one of the
Martin
bits,
Piero
like-
is saying he didn't kill him, and that's kind of what. Now it's been way too many years since I've seen it to make any real argument about that. But I don't remember. I don't remember that.
Yeah, they knocked them all down into the ice. He was in the Fortress of Solitude. They did it so like they fell down the cracks against the wall or something. They fell down.
So he fell
But they never came back.
out
They
of the
just assumed they were
fortress and
dead.
into ice. Then that's what you're
Well,
saying.
yeah, if you're at Arctic, I mean, if you're going with no bodysuit and no protection to Arctic waters, you're not coming back from that. So yeah, but yeah, that was. I think it wasn't as maybe graphic as the new one when he cracked his neck.
Yeah.
But he obviously implied that they were dead.
I mean, I really like that scene though, because you see him really struggling because he's like, there's a family there, you know what you gotta do, but he's like, but I still could maybe. And I don't know, I like that those little 10 seconds in which you're like, oh, he's gonna do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's what I mean. It was one of the things we want to put our character. The moral dilemmas, right? We want to put our characters in moral dilemmas. So Martin Piero says he didn't kill him. There is no ice in the fortress. It's crystal and not ice. So
Well, then what happened to
nerd
him?
discussions.
I mean, they never came back, so I'd assume they were dead. I mean, I don't know. But even then, it's like, well, if they're, I mean, you can come. I just see like, so is Zod working a 7-Eleven now? I mean, it's kind of like it was implied that they were destroyed.
So I guess I just assume it's a lot like a lot of the typical villain resolutions in those days is that they put them in, like the Fantastic Four would send people to the negative zone, or what was that little crystal that they were caught up in? There's this little, they were.
Oh yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Was that the Phantom Zone?
Well,
Was that what it is?
so I'm shifting actually back to Superman. Okay, so yeah, see, Michael Lanning says I thought Zod was in the Phantom Zone. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Is he didn't kill him? He put him in this Phantom Zone area. So
What the big? I have to watch it again.
Yeah, it's been too bad.
I've seen that.
I'm
movie
not
many,
arguing.
many
I'm just
times.
saying I
No,
don't
no,
remember.
I'm not, but I'm almost positive that because I mean, one, he crushed his hand, so that itself was out of character for Superman. When you like literally crack every bone in somebody's hand, it's like, okay, even that, it's like, come on, that's. But again, I mean, I don't know. Hollywood movies, you can't really hold them to like comic book because they're trying to just make a basic movie, and like this is like, well, they're doing the comic, like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. And
we could spend hours and hours and hours comparing the difference between
definitely.
comics and the movies. Yeah, and I don't know that I want. Not tonight, anyway. I don't know. I don't want to turn that into this. But I think that I think I want to go back to the idea is that I do think there are things that we don't want to see protagonists do because it would be against their character. And I think part of what happens when we latch on to characters, that's because the characters tend to be defined, and they have a way that they act and they do things. When they act out of character, that jars us as a reader or a viewer or a consumer, right? It jars us out of it, and we lose that kind of attachment to, okay, now this character is not really that believable because they're doing things that doesn't make any sense, right? And even if it's not something that you're like, oh, well, that was an evil thing or that was a good thing, and it's a good thing, so they would do, then you go, okay, well, yeah, maybe, but that's really not in that character's character to do. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Well, I totally understand.
I like it when it's like on that line, like when Batman, when he was on Venom and he got like, he was basically taking steroids, right? And that was like him getting close to that edge. And you would say, you're kind of like at first like, Batman would never do that. But then you can kind of see, okay, these are the circumstances that would lead him to that edge. He hasn't gone completely over the edge, but he's at that point. I always find it interesting when somebody can kind of do it in that manner, you know?
Yeah. Well, that was always the big conflict with the Joker. The Joker's always trying to push him over the edge of the kill, which I thought, which you know, like you, of course, like, you know, the fact that Batman doesn't kill makes that whole theory, like the Joker's trying to push him over, so Batman started killing people, then the Joker would be like, I won, so he can never do that.
Yeah.
Well,
But
I
yeah.
think if you're trying to get characters that to feel realistic, I mean, you kind of have to sit there and go, and unfortunately, most of this goes on the writers to make it believable. But sometimes it only takes that one bad moment to push somebody one direction or another.
Yeah.
And that's real
It
life.
takes
That's
one
real life
day.
stuff there.
Yeah.
It
Which
takes one
always
day.
makes it interesting, those sort of I guess teeter-totter sort of moments, will they, won't they, sort of thing. You know, it's funny, you're talking about Captain America killing. I always assume, now I've read some Captain America here and there, and I like him as a character, but he always, every time they depict him now, he always has like guns, machine guns. I thought he was more of a soldier than, yeah. Yeah, I actually have a figure of Captain America. He comes to like a Thompson, and I was like, oh, because they always depict him in World War II. So I just assume, well, he was a soldier in World War II.
Yeah.
So obviously he would kill, but like modern day, I can understand that.
He can have the weapon from Star Trek, and he can change it from stun to kill.
them.
Yeah.
Implied.
Yeah.
Of course, he doesn't kill.
Let me set my Tommy gun to stun.
Yeah.
He just throws it. He throws the Tommy gun and catches it like a boomerang.
Yeah. Well, and I think
Maybe
that's always been. It's just I thought you noticed. It's so popular.
Yeah.
And I think my memories of Cap really comes post World War II, because I read that I didn't read Cap until after he joined the Avengers, of course, in the 60s. So, C. Michael Lanning says, Wubba said, yeah, me too, thought Zod was in the Phantom Zone. C. Michael Lanning said, it looks like Superman moved and Zod fell, so it's almost like Batman saying, I don't have to save you. Okay.
Oh, well, I thought he picked him up and threw him away. I'm going to have to watch this again.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to watch. I'll go on YouTube and find it. I'm sure they have it. Because now I'm like,
I'm afraid you won't be able to sleep until you figure it out.
No, it's like that.
I've been through that.
We're all going to be
I've
watching
been
Christopher
through
Reeve's
that.
Superman 2 tonight, right?
I don't mind. Let's do that.
Yeah.
To me, that's the only Superman's worth watching anyway. But that's another conversation.
Yeah. So Wubba says, I don't want to see Punisher growing flowers, working charity outreach, and siding with the police. But Cap would do those things.
Yeah.
Punisher is a cop. He was a cop.
I thought he was a Marine. Was he a cop?
He was a cop. He worked undercover.
Yes, that's true, actually. But then
okay.
It's at some point he did have Marine training. Wasn't he ex-military as well?
Yeah, he was spec ops.
Was he spec? Yeah. That makes that. I know I've read stories here and there of the Punisher, but there's obviously big holes missing. Yeah, that's like I've seen some Punisher stories where he makes these elaborate revenge schemes.
Yeah.
Like setting people up for these, and I was like, nah, he just blows people up. He's very much a straightforward sort of guy. Like every time he's like thinking like these huge schemes like the Joker or something, I'm like, no, that's not his character. So he's almost reverse of the other ones. Like, no, the Punisher needs to kill more point blank than kill over time.
Yeah.
Which is why the interaction between the Punisher and Moon Knight is so hilarious.
Do they have them teaming up now in the comics?
Oh, there was a you still killing folks? Yeah. You still insane? Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Royal Airship says the out-of-character decisions might have peaked with Superman Red and Superman Blue.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
What
does anybody think about like deconstruct? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Chris.
Thanks. What do people think about like this whole? It's so overstated, but like always deconstructing his character. Is that just an excuse to completely take things in in the opposite direction and kind of? I mean, what's everybody's thoughts on that? I'm curious.
I think it's sometimes to the point you can deconstruct something to the point like multiple times, like you said, to where you kind of like, well, what was it in the first place again? Like you kind of lose the original when you like I understand deconstructing sometimes, but sometimes you just want to see Batman or whatever, or these heroes just be what they are in a basic sort of adventure instead of always deconstructing it.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that a little bit, and I think my feeling on deconstruct tends to be, okay, anytime you tell me that you're going to dive into deconstruction, it really just means you don't like the character the way he is or she is, and so you're going to go in and make changes. And I don't know that I'm a fan of that. I'm a fan of, if you don't like Captain America as Captain America, well, create something else. Create Super Soldier, or create, the Red Guardian, or create something different. But don't go in and quote unquote deconstruct Captain America and change him.
Yeah.
Because that's part of longevity and why we keep coming back to characters. Is that there are things about them that we like, right?
Yeah. I kind of like reimagining more than anything else. Like, like the core is still there, but it's just kind of a different. Like I don't know if you guys ever saw the book Speeding Bullets. It was like an Elseworld, where it was Superman's rocket leaves Krypton and lands in Gotham City, and he gets adopted by the Wayne family. And
no, that sounds cool.
And it's really cool. And so then what happens, of course, is the Wayne family gets killed, and basically, Kal-El becomes Batman. So it's Batman with all Superman's powers.
That's so terrifying.
That's kind of cool. I need to find that.
He's interrogating people. He just takes them and flies up, and he's like, "Where's the Joker?" Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
No.
All right. So
all Thomas Wayne.
So Wubba said this about the Punisher, and this is kind of what my memory of the Punisher is. It says the whole point of the Punisher as a character is vengeance for his family, because the system, including the police, failed him. And he said Carl Potts and Mike Baron made that very clear on their runs. And that's kind of what I remember from way early Punisher. And granted, I didn't read a whole lot of Punisher beyond the initial 5-issue Mike Zeck miniseries.
But I have a question. I have a question.
Okay.
I've never really followed Punisher. I honestly got interested in the character when the series came out. So, but when you have a character with a very straightforward mission, which is to get revenge for his family, and once he does that already, what do you do with a character? So I think that's kind of the biggest challenges, because one thing is to keep the world safe, and the other one is I need to get rid of these people.
Yeah. So
that's why Punisher is such a challenge.
Well, I
keep fresh.
No, and
in other words, how much vengeance can he have?
Well, and well, and I think it's.
I finished my family. I'm gonna revenge my neighbor's family. How?
Yeah.
It is.
I think that's why Punisher.
Go ahead, John.
I was gonna say I think that's why Punisher and Captain America clashed a few times. Ideally.
Yeah.
Like in Civil War, there was a big clash between the two.
Yeah, that was quite good actually. I quite enjoyed that comparison.
Yeah.
Well, they said that if Cap had been born, in the Vietnam War, he would be the Punisher now. And Cap was like, "I'm nothing like him. He's a psychopath. He's a murderer and a psychopath or whatever."
Yeah.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, it was really good actually. Civil War was good.
Ooh.
Well, and I think Sid brings up a good point in that part of the problem with origin stories for characters. Okay, origin stories are generally the best origin stories are generally created with characters that have a very specific task or goal that they end up needing to accomplish, right? Mm-hmm. And what happens is, as storytellers, we want them to accomplish that goal, right? I.e., Punisher needs to get revenge on all these mobsters for the death of his family. He does. Okay, now what's the point? Yeah. Does he hang up his skulls and go back to doing whatever he's supposed to be, or does he take on some new task? And
I think he realized the system was more corrupt than he initially thought during that process.
Well, the initial story was like, wasn't it his war on the mafia? Yeah, I think it was the mafia that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's a whole conversation going on in the chat here. See, Michael Lanning says, I think the cop idea actually came from the second movie with Thomas Jane. Wubba said it did, which explains why I had never heard of the cop thing before.
I never heard of it either, but I didn't know everything about it. So
I don't remember him being a cop in the comics. But again, my knowledge is way back. I didn't read a lot of the stuff. And then Wubba said Mike Barron solved that, and when he's talking about solve the goal thing for him by having him chase down and terminate all organized crime. But it could be someone else. It could be someone else's family. The system fails. So essentially, once he gets vengeance for his own family, then it becomes a bigger picture. Okay, well, I've avenged myself and my family. Now let me go after organized crime where everybody else is, right?
I guess that works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
and it's funny too, because I always see the Punisher as almost the American version of Judge Dredd, except one, because Judge Dredd's very black and white, like the Punisher. I mean, you do it, that sort of concept.
You're very right.
Which those characters are fun, but it only seems to be so much you can do with them because you can't ever change their attitude. That if you do the crime, you get the punishment.
Yeah.
I guess it depends as well on how the character focuses the revenge part, because I think that's why Batman works so well, because instead of saying I'm going to revenge my parents, it's like this whole city is broken.
Right.
So I guess the focus is different. That's how it keeps working, because he knows that his problem is very macro instead of this guy who shot at my mom and dad.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he was a very, very open-minded kid to realize it.
Right.
Yeah. But he takes he takes the microcosm that is his issue and makes it the macrocosm of the city.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think there's a few characters I have that a few characters I have that when they do stuff, it really irritates me. Conan is one. I'm a huge Conan fan. Every time people reinterpret Conan and don't have him do what Robert E. Howard does to add that character, that gets under my skin.
Yeah.
When he actually joined the Marvel Universe, he's in modern day with guns or whatever. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff, but like I really liked what Dark Horse did with the Conan series because I read the books and stuff too, and but now they just like have him do all sorts of weird stuff. So that's definitely a character. And Judge Dredd's the other character. It's like there's certain things like it's that character, but again, those characters are so Judge Dredd especially and the Punisher so one note that's really easy to be like they wouldn't do that because it's like there's only one thing about them. That's the cool thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and see I think when you have that reaction, like if you're watching a TV show or watching film of something you really like, and you go, no, I don't buy that. They wouldn't buy that. To me, that's when the writers have made that mistake of taking the character out of character, made them do something that they wouldn't do. See, Michael Lanning said, I know, Curtis, you're chomping at the bit here.
Yeah, I'm getting ready.
Yeah, so hold on to your thought here. See, Michael Lanning says, like Drax saying after killing Ronan, he must kill Thanos. Whoops, hold on, these are scrolling up here. He must kill Thanos, so revenge kind of goes up a tier, and it never stops. Wubba says, step aside, Punisher and Dredd, martial law was the ultimate.
Martial law. That's what I got about it.
And then Oven says, hello, Silverline family. What's up, Oven? Okay,
all
Curtis,
right.
go. You're on, Curtis.
Okay, no, so far we've been talking just about heroes changing. But how do people feel about when villains change? Like villains become anti-heroes, become the hero, become a partner, become, all those things. What about that side of things? How do you guys give a little bit more leeway?
I actually get irritated when there's a popular villain, say comics, movies, or whatever, and they're so popular, we need to like start making them sort of good.
Yeah.
That irritates me. I'm like, because then you keep running out of good villains if you keep doing that. Stop doing that.
Well,
that was kind of what bothered me from the first Suicide Squad movie, because they kind of try to make this kind of incomprehended people, and it's like, no, these people are psychotic.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't try to understand each other, but maybe that's not now. But I'm very open to giving a new shot on characters. I like seeing, hey, but what if it's good or not? I don't care. I like seeing and see what happens as long as the character stays loyal on the situation. I'm open for that.
Yeah.
I think that's what made Venom interesting in the beginning, because he was slightly deranged, trying to figure out how to be a good guy in the Lethal Protector.
I know some about Venom, but did the symbiote have a mind of its own, or was it really just the person who inhabited the symbiote was good or bad, depending on who inhabited the symbiote. Was that really mattered? So if somebody good got the symbiote, they would be a hero more than the original guy. I think it's like a product that got it would be.
I think
evil.
it has its own consciousness.
I think it
as
does
well.
too.
Kind of
That's my
influences
memory.
them.
Yeah.
Didn't he just wanted
Yeah.
to eat?
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Tommy actually says Venom from Spider-Man. He's a good guy. Now he's a good guy,
Yeah.
but he wasn't. Yeah.
He used to be
Yeah.
a really crazy bad guy.
Yeah,
Like Pharaoh.
Yeah, so Royal Airship says this. He said, villains making the change towards good are always a quasi-redemption story. Is there any comics where the villain is the protagonist? And that was kind of my thoughts. I think if a villain turns good, then isn't that what we want as human beings? Don't we?
Yeah.
And of course, Pete, no.
You need a bad guy. You need the bad guy. It's is it Scarface? Yeah, you need the bad guy. You need to look down at people like me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need the bad guy.
Yeah.
Strangely
you're
enough,
horrible.
my comic Godlings, I do that. I actually flip my character from a protagonist to the person getting revenge upon. So I blur those lines, but I intentionally do it because I was already that same idea. Like, is there ever a time where the good guy becomes the bad guy, and that now this person is getting revenge against him, but you feel for this guy? Why? And that's what I did. So hopefully people will see that. But yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's funny
I like
because when that happens, when you make the villain the bad guy, the good guy, then you have to replace him with a new villain, like Venom and Carnage. It's like, okay, well, all right, you thought Venom was bad, you thought Eddie Brock was bad. Okay, now it's just like Venom, but he's red. And he's psychotic. And it just kind of sometimes it comes across as a little cheap, you know.
Yes.
I think sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I remember when I was a kid and I would see these like TV shows and stuff, and the hero was like completely overpowered by this one episode or two episode villain and didn't know what to do. Suddenly the normal villain, the nemesis, comes out and saves the hero. And he looks at the hero and he's like, I didn't help you because I want to be good. I did you because I want to be the one who kills you. And it was like the most badass thing. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
I think Joker did that once.
That's so
I
Dragon
think
Ball right there.
So
Yeah,
Dragon
but for
Ball.
me, it was like, it's like, no, I'm gonna have the chance to kill you. Even if that means I need to be the good guy now, this means nothing. Right? That was what I was a kid.
Strangely enough, there was a video game that actually inadvertently did that. I don't know if you guys ever played the Uncharted games or knew, but they'd actually talked
Oh,
about
I
this.
love
Some of
Uncharted.
the media would like you play this supposed to be the treasure hunter Nathan Drake, and you're just a normal guy. But the amount of people you slaughter in that game, it's like somebody finally said, like, wait, this guy's just like a happy-go-lucky treasure hunter. He's killed over 150 people in the course of the game. It's more as you go through the series. And so you're just like, how is this guy still not affected by this? And in fact, they got to the point where the company was actually like, well, we can't figure out any other way to do it, but we know it really doesn't really work with the character when he's at this happy-go-lucky kind of, and he's slaughtering people. And
my
so
God,
it was
that
just
game-
kind of like, what do? You have to have some sort of gameplay, right?
Yeah.
But when you create a character that's so believable, so normal, you start to question, like, well, would this character really do that?
Right.
So, yeah.
And that's a good thing though, right? As a consumer, if you can make the consumer start to question that, then
Yeah.
that's a good thing that you've done, I think, as a creator, because you've given that you've created such a believable and realistic character that the consumer thinks they know them completely and totally, right?
Right.
Well, that game plays a lot with your emotions because in some occasions, they show you like a flashback the character did at some point. One of the characters tells you a flashback, and they make you play the flashback. Like, I don't know, character says we were running away from, we're trying to do escape, break out of the prison. When they make you play it, and you're very into this character, and then you reach a point to the game where they tell you, no, that was a lie. So it's like, you made me run this prison, believing this actually happened. I'm actually hurt. So I think that's one of the cool things that make those games so relatable as well. Like, did I do that? Because I didn't want to do that. I really did it. Am I evil?
Oh crap! You know what I just thought of? Are you? We don't have any artwork up. See, I depend on Brett for this.
Oh, Brett, Jesus.
See what happens when we put Roland in charge.
That's
of
true.
Oh,
Who wants to
You need
pop
to
their
pay your son more.
yeah? Who wants to put their artwork up first? Let's see if I can figure out how to do this. He told me how to do it, but I'm not sure. And then
I'm working
Shouldn't it
on
just be
one of
share
the
screen?
pages to join.
I'll share a screen, sure.
Yeah,
Well,
I think it should just be share screen.
yeah, I get that part, but I'm not sure how he makes it happen to the live. Okay, all right, very good. Oh, perfect. I can go with that right there. I like
Yeah.
that. All right,
You
so
see it?
yep, I see it. So let me get back to the comments here.
Oh well, Peter, you draw comics.
In my
Don't
spare
look at,
time.
don't look at what Peter's doing. Don't look at what Peter's doing. Don't look at what Peter's doing.
He's just a penciler.
Well, just
It's
pencil.
just you're right.
Yeah. So Wubba says that's what's bothering me about the new X universe. All the hardcore villains are now on the X teams. Yeah, that's a problem.
I think
haven't
we're
read
going to
the-
see a huge swing in here in a minute. Some of the villains are going to go back to being villains.
You know, it's funny. I think I read the Claremont run, and I was a huge X-Men fan, but when Claremont left, I left and I never went back. So I'd be curious to know. I've seen pictures of like Apocalypse is now like a good guy and stuff, and I kind of read his.
I read a little bit of stuff beyond Claremont, but not a whole lot.
You know, it's funny considering what characters do. I have this little story that I had a friend. You know how people always you watch horror movies and just believe like, oh come on, no one's gonna go into like you hear a noise, there's a killer, they do stupid things, they get
Right.
killed, right? There was this video game called Until Dawn where you can make choices. You play these characters and you go through make choices who get killed. So my friend would complain nonstop that come on, nobody would do this. And I found this game. I'm like, okay, let's put you to the test. Let's have you play this game and make these choices. I think she killed everyone but two.
Oh
So
no!
I'm like, not as easy as it looks, is it? I was giving her a hard time about it, but I was like, yeah, because she would always like, oh come on, and I'm like, well, they have to do stupid things, or just it's I just watched Poltergeist the other night.
Oh
and
yeah,
I
that's a good
finally-
one.
It still holds up really well, but there's
Carol Ann.
still the stuff that family goes through. I mean, I know
Oh.
that they're saving their daughter, but there's almost like a point where you just think that dad's going to go like, we can make more kids.
Right?
Get the hell out.
Like, is
Let's
this
get
really
the hell out.
worth it?
You know?
You know, I'm a whole coward with horror movies. I'm not really good with them, but my roommates would show me some of them, and they show me The Cabin in the Woods.
Oh
one
yeah.
Oh yeah.
With Chris Hemsworth. Well, it's all about the stupid things you do in horror movies,
Mhm.
and then
Yes.
you end up the plot twist. It's really fun, but it's exactly about that because they
Yeah.
try to go logical, and the other people is like, no, they're gonna stay together. We need to spread them out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it goes exactly like that. It was really funny.
Don't feel
it's
bad,
funny-
Sid. My wife will not watch horror movies at all. She's like, nope, I don't want those in my brain. She goes, because if I lay down and go to sleep, that's what I'm going to be thinking and seeing, and I'm going to be hearing noises at night. She goes, nope, not
And
me.
Oh yeah.
But
I
you
have a
know
friend,
what's
if you-
funny? I know I've watched even more terrifying stuff, but only because it says horror in the description. I'm like, nah, so stupid. I know. I know
Not
I've seen
allowed to
even more
watch.
scary stuff, but it's
Yeah.
I have a
I'm not
friend
allowed
who,
to
even if
watch
I
horror movies.
describe any horror movie, she gets scared. So I have to like she's in this movie. She's like, no, what's it about? I'm like, it's just scary, okay? It's like 'cause I know like I'll
Yeah.
bother her if I describe it, so I have to be quiet about it. But it's interesting that, you talk about what certain characters would do, but it's interesting. Horror movies seems to be the one genre that we don't question what the character would do. We question what somebody would do in real life.
Yeah.
I always
Yeah.
think that's so interesting. Survival movies that would do. Somebody stuck in the woods, freezing. You're not going like, well, what would he do? You're like, well, what would you do? Or somebody realistic would do. I always find that like that transition to like, oh, that's not realistic. To like, even if somebody makes a character, and I don't know if it has to do with the fact that it's one story. Like if
Yeah.
you do a legacy character like Captain America, where he's been established, or like the Punisher, but if you do like a one-shot movie, those characters are established to a point, but still in the context. And when they do step outside of the movie, you'd be like, oh yeah, but that's just a story. You wouldn't question a lot. It seems you question more motives with legacy characters that go for many, many years.
Right.
But maybe
Well,
I'm wrong.
And well, no, I think that's right because I think I think you feel those characters
Yeah.
better, right? Because you've had time to quote unquote get to know them.
Right.
And in reality, people are like that too, right? I mean, someone tells you something about somebody and they say, oh,
Yeah.
so and so did this, and you're like, wait, what? Really? Are you sure? I know that person, and that doesn't seem like them, right? I mean, you question it.
Yeah.
Every serial killer ever.
Yeah.
How many serial killers do you know, John?
Are you talking from personal experience?
See, I'm part of the fan
Oh
club.
my.
No, I'm kidding.
All right, so we got let me read a couple of these comments here. So, always just before Curtis speaks.
Actually,
Curtis.
I'm patient. I'm patient.
So C. Michael says Venom's drive was always revenge on Spider-Man. Really, it didn't go beyond that. The idea of the symbiote changing attitudes came later in the animated series. Spider-Man wanted to get rid of the costume because he realized it was alive. Yes, I remember that.
Okay, that's right. It was.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
overtaking him. Okay.
Yeah, and then Todd McFarlane will only do Spider-Man in his original suit. That's interesting. Eric Dodson said, "Hi y'all, sorry I'm late. What did I miss?" Well, dude,
Everything. You missed everything.
you missed everything. All the best stuff happened at first, right? Cassisi says, "LOL B." Okay, he started to type something and then he didn't finish, I think. Wubba says, "Apocalypse and Sinister are X-Men now." Okay, now,
Really?
Yeah, I find that weird.
Mr. Sinister is an X. Okay.
C. Michael says Claremont's the originator of the redemptive villain Magneto. They changed it back to his villainhood for Jim Lee's X-Men. Wubba says he was, but he wrote Sinister and Apocalypse as unshakable villains, pressing for their goals for mutants and power. C. Michael says, "See, I missed the villain where they're just villains, just that villains. There's this definitive evil that needs defeating instead of a moral dilemma." And I'm kind of with him there. It's like, you think, I like the, I like the, when you've got the good versus evil. I mean, it's a part of what our draw to Star Wars and stuff is, right? I know we're not supposed to go into Star Wars territory here because people get.
No, but I agree.
Tommy's not
used
live
to
with us, so.
Because, for example,
Curtis pulls out his big packet of notes. Star Wars, huh? I have something to say. Like he's gonna do another slideshow like he did last time. It'd be
a lot. Well, what I was going to say earlier is, have you guys ever seen the anime JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?
I've seen bits and pieces of it.
I've heard good things about it.
Has one of the best villains ever. Where when you see a movie and like a James Bond movie where he'll leave him on the table on the conveyor belt going towards the saw and then just leave the room and hope that he's gonna die. Well, like the villain in JoJo is amazing. There's this whole scene, not to spoil too much, where he thinks that the guy's dead, the guy's faking he's dead, and you literally see the villain walk across him and go, maybe I should just cut his head off just to make sure. And you're like, yes, finally, that's the villain I've been waiting for.
That's the villain I've been waiting for.
Yeah,
it's true though.
Yeah.
Well, we just learned a lot about Curtis.
Yeah.
I didn't say hero, I said villain.
Yeah.
It's true. I always liked this duality as a kid of Magneto versus Xavier.
Yeah.
Because he was like, these two have reasons to be what they are, and yet they're like friends, but not yet. Like this, they miss their friendship or whatever. And I've noticed lately, especially, I don't want to give names, but I've seen it a lot of Disney when they try to justify every single villain they make.
Yeah.
It's like, but I know we all have sad stories, but I miss this guy who just wants to see the world burn.
Yeah.
The psychotic one.
Yeah.
I kind of miss that at this point. At first, I thought it was great, but now I see it everywhere.
Yeah. I think that's why the Joker is still so popular, because it's just he's a force of nature. I mean, he's just
well, and I don't know. This is my statement is certainly that I'm about to make is not researched, and you guys may jump up and say no, that's absolutely not true. But
no, feed goes dark.
It seems to me like we're over the last decade or so, there's been this shift to this, like, I don't want my bad guys to be bad. I want them to be gray. I want them to be, I want them to have some redeeming qualities and things, and I'm kind of along the lines of Sid is like, I kind of want my bad guys to be bad. I want to be able to to cheer for the good guy to defeat the bad guy because the bad guy's bad. I don't want to go, well, okay, he was bad, but his mama was hurting.
Yeah.
You know? It's like...
Yeah,
So
I agree with
in that
that.
case, is it like a balancing act, because I know sometimes people do it because they're trying to give the villain texture and nuance. Should they, without them being a full-blown cliche? I mean, is that a balancing act, or do you not even start to delve into that because that might lead the viewer to sympathize with the villain? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, it's yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to remember some of my favorite, like, just, villains. I think one of my more favorite villains, just because I thought he was cool, was Agent Smith from The Matrix. Just
Yeah,
because,
he's a
and he was,
problem.
he
But
was
he
just,
evolves.
yeah.
I love him.
But
I think Megatron could be a good example.
yeah, Megatron is a great.
Yeah, in the
That
comics, they tried to make him into this character more like a Spartacus type of thing. Like I was a miner and then a prisoner, and now I seek revenge, kind of a thing. But
Yeah,
in the latest series, they show him like, yeah, I have this origin, but you can clearly see that he became more of like a dictator type of guy. So he's like, I'm still back to the core kind of a thing. I think
yeah.
that's really cool.
I like, even though if you do it, I just like megalomaniacs or whatever. That's what I
Yeah.
always liked about
I
that
like
character. That he's
that.
just like, no, I'm right, you're wrong, and I'm gonna prove. I don't. The only thing I can think of, Roland, is I wonder if people do that just in case. Like, well, if this character becomes popular, we can keep this little exit to make him good.
And if that's the case, ugh.
Yeah, yeah, I know. But you often wondered if that's the case. Well, if this guy becomes, we can because you can't sell villains to kids. I guess you got to turn the villains into.
So the Harley Quinn effect.
Yeah.
So, as you guys might imagine, there's a stream of comments going on here now. C. Michael says, yes, Roland, gray villains, yuck. Sometimes, but not always. Okay, Cassisi has a good question
Sometimes.
here. And I'm gonna hold his until last, and we'll come back and talk about it. Tommy says, bad guys are just misunderstood. Ha ha ha. Stephen Brown says, one of my favorite villains is Mr. Freeze.
I love them. Yes,
yeah,
every time I'm one. Yes.
I do too. Wubba says my villains should be Carnage and Joker, insane psychos, or Lex Luthor, greedy, power hungry. I don't think. C. Michael says I don't think so. Harry Potter of Voldemort was just evil. Skeletor, Mumra, heck, even Gargamel.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Cassisi says
I
true.
think I
I
had
just
an
think. All right,
obsession
so.
problem though.
So Cassisi asked this question, all right, and let's talk about this. He says, doesn't the gray villain draw a bigger audience? What do you guys think?
I think people likes to be related, and people likes feeling that their flaws are not that, like, I don't know, people likes projecting. Everybody likes projecting. I feel like, oh, that's me. You can comprehend
the reason I liked Infinity War so much is because I actually sided with Thanos because he made a very good argument. I thought, yeah, no, he's right. We should get rid of half the universe. It makes sense. And
okay, we're not giving Peter the glove or the gauntlet.
We're not giving it
that's
to
what
me
I liked.
either.
The bad guy, he was doing it for the right. He thought he was the good guy. He was doing it for what he thought was the right reason. I like that. You get your characters like Joker and great. They're great. They're insane, but not every. I don't think every bad guy should just be bad because they're crazy or they're just like killing people.
I think it depends on the context of the story you're telling. I do.
I actually think that
is gray, but the way the story's set up, it's meant to be that way.
But I actually think one of the things Pete said, he hit on one of the important things about the character is that Thanos thought he was doing the right thing. Right? I mean, it's not like and maybe you guys can say, no, Roland, you're wrong. I don't believe there's anybody who says I'm going to be evil today. Now, we might point lots of fingers and say, but this person, but I don't believe that if we were to look at any evil person that history kind of unanimously says is evil. Let's just name one of our favorite evil persons in history, Hitler, right?
Yeah.
I don't think if we were to sit down and speak with Hitler, he thought he was being evil. I
No,
think
he
that
was saving the world.
he thought,
Yeah,
he thought he was doing the thing he needed
God's
to
work.
do for
thought he was doing-
him.
Well, he actually
Well,
said that the
they
rest
weren't
of the world will
religious,
thank
but-
him. Yeah, he actually said the rest of the world will thank him for
Yeah.
what he's going to do. I mean, he
Yeah.
literally
But-
thought that.
So
I think it's like that stereotypical thing where they say the villain's the hero of his own story.
right.
But
Yeah.
the
I
risk,
love
but
this,
the
yeah.
risk is always make sure that the villain isn't the hero of this story. you know?
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
and personally, my thought on evil is like you're saying nobody goes up and says I'm going to be the bad guy. It's who draws that line and who crosses it. So it's not what their intention is; it's what their action in the spirit of that intention. And I think that's what's the most interesting is the hero and the villain. You could have them go through the exact same circumstances, but what they choose to do about it is what characterizes them as a villain or a hero. You know, that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah. Tommy says Thanos. See, he just misunderstood. Just trying to fix the problem.
He's doing he's trying. I don't know. Look, I'm all for it.
You know, I saw Thanos on Infinity War. I still felt a little. Like something's off with this Thanos. I like that, you know, like he's got this duality thing, but I always felt like I'm missing something of this almighty powerful character. And then they come up with Endgame, where he's like, you know what? I see that the guy from the past tried to do this thing, but didn't work. Now I understand. I just vanished everything. And for me, I was like, yeah, that's the guy I knew. And I think that's great that you could come to like this realization. That's so on point.
I never could get Thanos' plan. I remember thinking in the movie, I really thought that plan through, and I'm like, well, this is a stopgap at best because everyone's just going to multiply.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you had the gauntlet to do anything, why didn't you just wish for renewable resources that never run out?
Yeah, twice the food, you know? I mean,
Yeah,
you know.
like I never
We
understood
have
like
a
why
whole
he had to
episode
kill him.
about this.
Which of
Yeah,
course,
because I was just like, this guy's not very smart. I don't know. I mean, he's not really thinking this through. Like then one of her servants like, no, this is kind of a flawed plan. Let's do the math on this, and you know, just the show, and because I was like, you know, like rabbits, things multiply fast, you know.
which of course reminds me of one of my all-time favorite short stories. If any of you guys read To Serve Man.
Yes. Oh yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 Great short story. One of my all-time favorites. Cassisi says, and regardless of a hero and villain, choices yield consequences. Seeing and reading those consequences is the interesting part, and I think that's right. I think it's all about the consequences. You make a choice, and they have consequences. And that's what we want to see as consumers of the entertainment, right?
Do you guys feel more? Do you get more into a movie if somebody makes a choice, hero or villain, and you're questioning whether or not you would make that same choice, or do you just not? Like sometimes I watch movies and when people make choice, I'm like, would I do that?
Yeah.
That usually means I'm getting into the show, whatever,
Yeah.
or the comic. I'm getting more into it. But I mean, it's never like, and I enjoy like, you know, villains like the Joker or whatever, but I'm never going like, would I kill 100 people for fun?
Yeah, no.
No. So I mean, there's always those ones that it's you know, for the you understand that, you know, antagonizing the villain. I mean, the hero, but it was nothing I never, you know, question or whatever. But some of those, I mean, I understand like sometimes I mean, I think anime and manga sometimes the classic for this, like everybody in manga wants to destroy the earth to prevent war. And that's like the common thing. And I'm like, what?
Then you have stuff
what?
like Evangelion.
Yeah. Just like,
Because
okay,
Evangelion is the most existential thing you're gonna read or
Yeah.
watch.
And it still doesn't have an ending, really. That's the problem with it.
Jeez.
Or at least a good ending.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, it doesn't have a good ending. No.
So, Royal Airship says, on the Wednesday crew, we suggested that comic and movie companies have a continuity manager who had a final say over character decisions and arcs, this creating more jobs for all of us. I can't speak to movie companies, but it's absolutely certain that, well, I don't know if they still do, but there's very much continuity managers at Marvel and DC. certainly I don't know. I don't know that they still do what they did, like when we were there, Curtis. But very much, very.
There was a committee. There was a committee for, if I understand it correctly, at Marvel Studios, and they used to have comic book people like Joe Quesada and all those guys on it.
So for the films.
Yeah, but then there was some big shakeup. I don't know the details, but at some point, the man in charge, Kevin Feige, ended up getting sole autonomy over it, and that council was like disbanded or something like that. I had heard.
I think I actually remember hearing that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So one of the things that we used to always kind of say as an editor, okay, the editor, the company has entrusted me with this this is this property, whether it be Spider-Man or Sludge or Prototype, right? This is the property you have given it. You've entrusted me, the company, to take care of this piece of property, right? And so when I then talk to the writer, it's like, okay, writer, I'm giving this to you. I am going to make sure, because the company has entrusted it to me, I'm going to make sure that you take care of this character. And so you've got to give him back to me in the same condition that I give him to you in, right? And so that was one of the key components that we always thought. Hey, look, you're going to play with this character, but when you return him to me, right, when you're done telling your stories, you've got to give him back to me in the same condition that I give him to you in, right? So it's just like I lend.
Broken.
Yeah, not broken. Yeah, I loan you my toy. Don't break him, right?
Yeah.
Strangely, and speaking of characters it wouldn't do. And the same thing with you writing. Do you guys have any character out there that you would find really hard to write because of the way their character is and you couldn't change him? One, Superman would always be one. That would be very hard. One, nothing can really hurt him, so you usually have to figure out emotional way. But Superman is a very structured kind of, I'm not saying this to be, mean to it, but it is kind of a one note character. So sometimes I always think like a story I've thought about, like, man, he'd be a little hard to write, for me at least. Now maybe other writers would totally get that, but I don't know if you guys have any comments on that.
I think the biggest thing is everybody's trying to make a name for themselves, and that's cool. But sometimes they forget that they're in service of the story, they're in service of the character. And so this constant idea of reinventing the wheel, all the time, just for sake of reinventing the wheel, and it's just such an ego trip. I wish more people would just try and tell a good story,
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, I think we're seeing it across the media landscape right now. Everybody's getting these phenomenal properties, and just, okay, let me do my version of it where I just dismiss everything else. And it's like, that's not why you were given that property. If I'm going to make spaghetti and meatballs, and I make it with pineapple and yogurt, it's not spaghetti and meatballs anymore. I'm sorry.
Gross.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing. It's just I don't get why reinvention has to happen.
Well, it's funny, because the DC fandom thing just happened, and they dropped a bunch of trailers. And one of the things I saw was with the director, James Gunn. Is that who does Suicide Squad? Yeah. And one of the things he said is, hey, I'm getting to do this story my way. And my first thought was kind of that, Curtis. My first thought was kind of, well, but it's a DC thing, so shouldn't you do your thing the DC way, and not just the James Gunn way? I don't know.
Well, it's like when Bernie Wrightson drew Batman, when he appeared in Swamp Thing, right? That was like, it's still Batman.
Yes.
But he would exaggerate things. The ears were taller, the cape would go crazy, and it was distorted, but it was still the essence of the character was there. So we can frame it in somebody else's lens, but if you change the character too much, why are we even bothering giving you this character?
Right.
Yeah. Do you think
I don't know if that movie's gonna be good or not. I just want to see Polka Dot Man in action.
Hey, we had a chance.
I did not expect it, so I was like, okay, I give it to.
John Martin and I had a chance to meet David Dasmashalian 2 years ago in Memphis. The guy, the actor who's playing Polka Dot Man, and
he's cool. Is he a cool guy?
Yeah, super cool.
He's pretty cool.
Yeah, we got a picture with him and everything. Super cool guy.
I'm so excited.
Yeah,
I really want to watch
it. Sid, are you drawing? You arting? You
Not
wanna
as like machine drawing, more like chilean drawing, rendering. I'm working on pages. I'm working that.
so
I'm
you
doing my
wanna
homework.
you wanna boot Pete and stream your art?
Please
Will
do,
be
'cause
an
I'm having a
Echo.
nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Pete, I think I've had enough of your mafia boss guy at the desk. I think I'm all done with that.
Oh,
Let's
I'm
go on to
glad you
something.
know he's a mafia boss. I'm doing something right.
yes, that's right.
Gonna destroy Peter.
The thing is, when it's penciled, he's going to be mostly in shadow. So I'm putting all this out. I don't know why I'm making this up. He's just gonna be... I'm figuring out what he looks like because I know he's going to reappear at some point. Oh, I need
Yes.
to...
Oh, yeah, it helps.
Do you, strangely enough, think? I mean, when you're talking about like handing properties over, do you guys still yearn for more individual stories? Because that's kind of sometimes one of my problems with, like, I guess I would say maybe mostly movies and TV, is everything has to deal with the franchise or property, which kind of tie people into specific stories. And I still would love to see, unique
Oh, wow.
stories like Christopher Nolan, stories that are just doing like, no, we want to tell completely different stories instead of always going into the story going like, well, it's just going to adhere to the property. It's just going to be what we want or need. And that's big, a lot of my problem, especially when I see so many of the same sort of stories done over and over again. I'm like, man, I mean, the Joker, for instance, I mean, he said the Joker, and like when he made that, he's like, why did you put the Joker in there? It's like, that movie was never written for the Joker. We put him in because we knew no one would see it unless we put it in there.
Huh.
Wait,
He said that. The
so-
director
so-
said that.
about the Joker movie?
Yeah, he said if he did not, decided to put the Joker in because they knew if they just made that a standalone movie without the Joker, no one would see it. But since they
That's
put
because
the
it would have been
Joker
called
in
Taxi
there,
Driver.
yeah, that's what it was. And it was, and I mean, the funny
Interesting.
thing
I
is
had
you
no
watch
idea.
that movie and you literally don't need the Joker in it.
No,
It's completely superfluous to
No.
the storytelling.
Yeah.
And it was kind of almost a depressing sign of our times. Like, really, we can't get really good stories unless somebody puts in some sort of property or something in there. Because I'm just
Well-
because I'm just like, man, what would that story?
That's why they had the whole Batman connection, didn't they, to Thomas Wayne, and had him.
Yeah.
He wasn't needed. He didn't need to be Thomas Wayne.
No, it could have been
You're
anyone.
just trying to make a Batman connection. It just didn't work. I
Yeah,
thought the acting was superb, but
yeah, the acting and
I-
stuff was great, but it was almost one of these things like, I mean, the Joker was
Okay.
in there to get people to buy tickets.
yeah,
And it's kind of sad. I think that's kind of like, here's another guy. He's like, yeah, my vision was hamstrung because people won't see things unless there's an already established franchise in the movie or property or in the movie or story. Which I'm like, really, that's kind of depressing.
Well, I mean
Yeah.
that may be a slightly I mean that may be something that we see in lots of places, right? Because
Yeah.
how many you Aaron, you've probably done enough shows to know. Now, I will say this, I think the attitudes are changing, but still you go to a show as an independent comic book maker. You go to a show and someone walks around to your booth, they're looking to see if you did Spider-Man or Batman.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know? And so that's what they're looking for. And so I my argument might be, and I don't know that this is the answer that you're wanting or looking for. My argument might be it's the same way for film. Is that okay? Well, he could have done a movie about a taxi driver, but who's gonna go watch it? But if he does a movie about Joker, then he can increase his audience.
True, but the counter argument to that is you're never going to get anything like Star Wars, Indiana Jones, or any of those classics we consider franchises now because those people did their own things at that time. You're not having that anymore. And I actually watched the guy who played Falcon in the Civil War Marvel movies talk about that. Said, would Goonies ever get made? He's like, no, Goonies will never be made today. You will never get these movies. So in that argument, you're not going to get any new franchises. So are we just going to milk the ones we have forever? Unless you get people to go see things and take a chance on stuff.
Yeah.
So there's a counter argument to like all those things. But I agree with you that that's what they're doing. But I think because there's lots of unique things that come out of just, strange enough, maybe streaming services. There's lots of weird things that come on streaming channels. Maybe that's our go-to for really original.
Probably that's what
stuff.
got movies like Parasite to get where it was.
Yeah.
And I think that's where your independent comics are, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wubba says Sludge is the character I've always. Oh, because I mentioned Sludge. Sludge is a character I've always wanted to do, but will never get a chance to. Sadness. Wubba, you remember you and I talked about this one thing, right? So it's not Sludge, but it could be Sludgy. Okay, that's
Sludgy.
enough. And Tommy says, "Ooh, Trump's pages."
Spoilers.
Yeah, that's looking
My
really
boss allowed me to
good.
share them, so you know.
What's that?
My boss allowed me to share them, so this is not illegal.
No.
Those look really
You,
good.
you didn't get the email, this cease and desist letter he just sent you?
Yeah,
you
right.
didn't get that?
Oh,
Yeah,
geez.
yeah,
No.
they're looking great.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
Royal Airship says, Swamp Thing, the TV series gave me nightmares as a kid, but I'd love to see it brought back. Well, did they just do a new Swamp Thing? I didn't see it.
The
It's
Yeah,
TV
they
actually
just
series-
have
less than
like
a
one
season.
season.
yeah, it's really good. Really
I've
good.
heard it's really
Yeah.
good.
But
It came
And then
and
they
went like
canceled it.
that. Yeah.
I think they blew their budget by quite a way.
Really?
They were like, we're not making another one of these.
Because didn't Blue Devil show up in an episode? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't
And
plan
they
very
had
well.
quite a few characters in there.
And see,
Is it
I don't
Adam
get the
Xanadu?
it's a DC. It was the DC channel, wasn't it?
DC Universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I don't get that, so I would have watched it, but I don't get it.
Well,
I
no,
think
no
all
one's
that
gonna
stuff's
no
coming
one's
to-
gonna get it soon. It's all going to HBO Max, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I've heard. Yeah.
Who's that?
You know, I was gonna add something about like what Aaron was saying about changing characters and stuff. I think something I find so interesting is the best time somebody gets on a property, they put an existing character in a different scenario, a unique scenario, and a unique adventure. That and that's where we bring out nuances in the character. It doesn't change the character, but it seems like everything's backwards now, where you take a character, you put him in the same situation, but you change the character and what they would do in that situation,
Yeah.
and call it storytelling.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of strange.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, somebody, I forget who now, maybe Aaron, talked about Superman a little bit earlier, and my problem with Superman, because I think you were talking about what you would have a hard time doing. My problem with Superman is that I think I would enjoy writing Superman as Superman was originally created in the 1940s.
So enjoying the idea of working around the already established perimeters and enjoy that. I can see that.
Yeah,
Like,
but what happened, in the 1950s, they just gave him powers that were just stupid. And in the 1940s, he couldn't even fly in the 1940s. He had the ability to leap tall buildings in a single bound. And so
I remember that.
yeah. And
From the
so
cartoons. I'm not that old.
yeah, Sid, you should look up, if you haven't already seen them, you should look up the Fleischer cartoons. There's
Oh
do.
yeah, those are
there's
great.
there's about a dozen of them, 10 or 12, something like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're fantastic.
Oh man, they're so good.
Yeah, they're worth it. Even to this day, they're still good.
I mean,
But yeah,
I don't know if you got Walmart's down there, but you can find.
don't.
You don't. I'm sorry. I can find. I have. Okay, so here's a secret, and my wife can't hear me. So I buy these little. Every time I go in there, right, I see these Fleischer cartoons DVDs. $5. I'm like, $5? I have to have it, right? and she's like, don't you already have all those? Yes, but not like this, not on this disc, like this. And so I've got like 4 or 5 of the Fleischer DVDs of Superman. But there's only like a dozen episodes, but you can pick them up for like $5 at a Walmart.
yeah. The Batman
yeah.
animated series was really, you can see, really had a lot of like homage to the Fleischer Superman cartoons that I really liked. So
I
that's why.
really like
You're
that.
talking about Batman from the early '90s, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one. You can see a lot of homage to
Yeah.
the old Fleischer cartoons. Yeah, they were great. And yeah, because I mean, Superman was based on the Ubermensch, the ultimate human.
So Superman. So there's. All right.
Uh-oh.
This is something
Oh, did I step in it? I guess I stepped in it, didn't I?
ready.
No. So there's a writer by the name of Philip Wiley. He wrote a book and that was published in 1929 called Gladiator. Okay, if you read Gladiator today, you will swear you're reading a Superman book.
Okay.
I kid you not.
Ooh.
Yes, he has a Fortress of Solitude. He does things that Superman. He's not an alien. Okay, that's the big difference. The Gladiator.
Right.
Gladiator is a product of science. His father was a scientist and injects his pregnant wife with a serum, and then Hugo, the son, is born with super strength. But it is a fantastic story, and I'll tell you the way I discovered it. Curtis, in about 91, I think, Tom Mason, I was begging for work from Malibu, and Tom Mason said, "Hey, we've got an adaptation for an old novel if you want to do." I'm sure. What is it? And it was called Gladiator. I wrote a 6-issue adaptation of Gladiator that Howard Porter, I think, did 1 issue for, and it never got published. Part of the reason it never got published is Howard Porter did not deliver on the art. It was so terrible. It was so bad. He generally he did good art, right? But when he submitted this stuff for Gladiator, the first issue, it was like, yuck, what in the world is going on? It was just nasty.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's interesting. I didn't know
So
that.
here's the deal, though. So Siegel and Schuster were actually asked about this multiple times. Okay, now there's contradicting information because on one hand they say, yeah, we read that book, we're familiar with it. It didn't have anything to do with with Superman, and then later it was like, no, we've never heard of the book.
Okay, that's interesting. Because
isn't it?
The documentaries I've heard, he was based more on, which I'm sure he was part of the influence, but that's
of course,
definite. Yeah.
And
then just out of curiosity, since you've seen so much of Fleischer cartoons, he didn't use his eye lasers in that. That didn't come until much later.
No,
Yeah, he was just pretty much, he could fly, but he's pretty much a strong man.
Yes.
In the Fleischer
Speaking of those cartoons, have you guys seen somebody went in and did a 4K restoration?
Those are beautiful. Oh my gosh!
Like some crazy restoration.
Yes,
and gave it away.
Man, as soon as I saw that, I sent the link to my good buddy Stephen Butler, and I'm like, dude, you got to see this, because we used to watch those a lot when we were roommates. It's like, you got to watch these. They're gorgeous.
Yeah, it's still it's funny because I'll still see some cartoons, American-made cartoons, with the animation subpar, and I look at Flesh and I'm like, come on, man, look at this. How old? I mean, I know you can do better animation because I'm looking at somebody who did it how many years ago?
I know, like 80 years ago now?
Yeah. So don't give me that, well, we're saving budget. No.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sid, you should definitely look it up. They're well worth seeing.
Yeah.
Will do.
Yeah, how do we get off on Superman?
I think we were talking about writing him, and then you were talking, and then
oh yeah, that's right. So Aaron, I do. So here's the deal: if you go and if you read Gladiator, which I recommend you do. So in the early 90s, when I was trying to find, Malibu didn't supply me with a book. I had to go buy it myself. Here was the problem in 91, right? In 91, it was a rare book. You couldn't find it. I paid it's the most I've ever paid for a book. I paid $120 for the book, right? Guess what? If you go to Amazon right now, you could probably find it for $1.99 digital.
That's always the way it is.
But if you read it, here's my warning to you. If you read it, you got to remember it was published in 1929. It reads very much like a Great Gatsby kind of book. I'm not equating it to the Great Gatsby. I'm just saying it reads
that sort of
like it's written in that era.
Yeah. I like a lot of that because I read a lot. I used to read a lot of Lovecraft that's written in the 20s in his language, and I like a lot of the stories. They just had a different way of writing that's very unique. Sometimes fits the stories really well, and So I think Conan was written in the 20s too. Yeah, Lovecraft and him were friends. They never met each other, but they were pen pals.
Pen pals. I was saying that earlier today.
Yeah.
There's a new series out here called Lovecraft Country.
Yeah.
Was that pretty good?
It's really good.
Really?
I remember the credit of it.
Maybe
the only thing I've seen lately, I did see The Color Out of Space with Nicolas Cage, and he did a decent job. I like Lovecraft. The same thing with like Lovecraft and Conan. I get very picky when people translate it. I don't know. It's just my own personality quirk, but Lovecraft, especially, like, there's certain things I like about it, and I think Lovecraft especially is incredibly hard to translate the visual because so much of it is what you don't see, and every visual medium wants to show it, and so it kind of ruins it for me. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sometime one of our topics we may have to do. Why do the British make such good TV?
Yeah.
Okay, we kind of ran out of steam there, didn't we?
Indie
kind of like,
characters. Which other characters you guys think would be hard to translate? Let's stick out from there, because when you asked the question at first, my first thought was actually only because I'm a Transformers fan, but for me, anything with Optimus Prime would be a big challenge, because
why?
Yeah.
every time they try to do something different with him, it's like he keeps making the same mistakes, kind of a thing. And
Yeah, he's a very
it's-
one note. Yeah.
yeah, it's like freedom is it right? It's like we know.
Yeah. It's funny
what
too,
else is
because
out there?
I think all the stories in Transformers about everyone but Optimus Prime, he's in the background. They don't really focus. I think they focus on Bumblebee and other characters because he is a very one-note character. It's like, gee, I wonder what he's going to do in this situation, and that's why I actually. Okay, so things out of character in one of the Transform movies when he actually brutally killed Megatron. I felt that was a little out of character for him. Yeah,
That
strangely enough.
Jesus.
Well, what I thought was really was when they made Megatron like weak in the movies. I'm like, no, this guy is like the most powerful. I mean, he's like terror, an absolute terror, whatever. But
It's gonna be hard to make good Transformers stuff in the last few years. Or probably there was never an actually properly good Transformers stuff. I think it's just nostalgia what makes Transformers so lovable. It's just fun.
It's fun. I had a family member who's like, well, I'm going to show my kids the Transformer cartoons after the movies. She came back later and said, those things were awful. And I'm like, well, yeah, they made this whole toys of kids. You're not looking at fine literature here. I mean, they're not made for adults at all.
Transformers. Transformers is like my favorite franchise. It's what makes me get into robots. It's what I draw them all. My wall here is full of Transformers bullshit, but it's just, you gotta accept it, man. It's not, like you say, it's not literature.
So you like robots, Sid, huh?
See, I was a big fan of Robotech. I love Transformers, but I was a big fan of Robotech, which doesn't get enough love.
Oh God. I have a Voltron piece, and I have to make it feel it. It's a Voltron fighting King Ghidorah from Godzilla. And it's just like, that's the mightiest thing ever. I love this. I make it. Right. But yeah, no, robots is like my main thing. I love technology. I love everything related to like mechanical stuff.
Cassisi says he loved the original movie. Are you talking about? Oh, he cried. Cassisi says he loved the original Transformers movie, and he cried when Optimus died.
I think every kid did.
Yeah, everyone did. Yeah.
And the music is amazing.
I saw it in the theaters, and when that happened, I was like, well, he's going to come back at the end of the movie. And then Rodimus Prime shows up, and you're like, what the? I've seen documentaries on that, because they were like, look, and they said, like, look, all we were trying to do was we wanted to have a new toy line, because the toy lines came from Japan. So this completely different toy line. And so, like, well, we need to wipe out the old toys so we can bring in and sell these new toys. And so they said the best way to sell these new toys is literally slaughter everyone in the old toy line. And that's exactly what they did. They killed, and you can imagine being a kid in the theater, you're like, they're killing everyone. Oh, they did, and they brutally slaughtered him. It was just like, and it was funny because one of the documentary director was like, yeah, maybe that wasn't the best idea. They had kids who were crying, who wouldn't come out of their rooms because they killed Optimus Prime. I mean, parents were writing in going like, why did you do this? Yeah,
so it wasn't an animated movie. It was a snuff film, is what you're saying.
It literally was.
And then you have these new kids seeing this Optimus Prime that all their parents love, and he's just slaughtering Megatron and stealing his face. And you're like, what is wrong with my parents liking series?
Yeah. Cassisi says, yeah, that's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
And Oven said he loves the Gundam franchise.
Oh, Gundam.
Oh, yeah.
Throw me any giant robot. It's my favorite.
You know, speaking of weird things on that Transformer movie, after that, because they were going to make all these animated movies, they were making a G.I. Joe movie animated after that, same company. And the Duke, the main character in that cartoon, was supposed to die. Duke was. And when they got such huge backlash from Optimus Prime, they're like, we'll just make him go in a coma and wake him at the end. They completely changed it, because like, we're not doing this again. You can't die. But yeah, they learned their lesson the hard way with Transformers. It was like, yeah. That was funny.
I didn't know until recently that the black outfit that Spider-Man had was because of the Secret Wars toy line. I
Yeah,
thought that
Silverline, yeah.
yeah, I didn't know
Yeah.
that until recently. I was like, oh wow, really? That's fascinating.
I
And that was
didn't
done
know that
well.
until I listened to the Rob Liefeld.
You're listening to it too?
Yeah, I started listening to it
Pretty
today.
good,
Actually.
right?
Yeah, it's very
It's pretty-
interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah, and when he talks about his life story, he had a certain reputation at times, but you hear his life story, you kind of feel for the guy, So
Listen,
What
In
is
fact,
this? Is this like
I'm a
a
Rob
YouTube
fan.
thing?
It's
Yeah.
what they
Yeah.
call it,
Rob-
podcast.
Observations.
Observations, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Roland, I don't know if you remember the first Comic Con I went to with you, like back in the mid '90s. And again, this is the funny thing. I was like 15 years old. We went to a bar. Figure that. And so I was at the bar, and all the Image guys were at a table. So there's Eric Larson,
Yeah.
Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld, all of them. And I was scared, pantless, we'll say. And you guys were so cool. You said, "Go and tell them you're from Malibu. Go run over." So I went over there and I told them, I said, "I'm from Malibu and I love your guys' stuff and all that." And of all of them, Rob Liefeld was so cool. He drew a picture for me, and he was just the nicest.
Listen,
and I'm sure I was totally interrupting. Nice guy.
He always seemed like a nice guy. to me.
listen, you know what? Rob gets a lot of grief. And I always try to say that, okay, there are two things that you can talk about. If you're going to talk about Rob, there's two things you ought to talk about. One, you can talk about his art. And if you're going to talk about his art, make sure you're just talking about his art and not Rob as a person, okay?
Yeah.
He always gets grief for not drawing the feet and all that kind of stuff and whatever. The other thing is, if you're going to talk about Rob as a person, I have never seen Rob badmouth anybody, talk trash, and maybe he has. I'm not saying he hasn't. I've never seen. Every time I've ever talked to Rob or spoken to Rob, he's always been incredibly nice, incredibly generous.
That's awesome.
He's just a nice guy. And so when I see Rob getting grief, I'm like, let's chill out a little bit. Because if you're going to give somebody grief, John, no comments from you. If you're going to give someone grief, give it to someone who deserves it. John, you know who I'm thinking about, but don't say it. Let's not go there.
What? Huh? What?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
There are people who I shouldn't say deserve grief, but there.
I think I'll chime in on the Rob Liefeld giving him grief thing. I think some of the grief that he gets is because sometimes when he opens his mouth about some things, it seems more like he's trying to stay relevant more or less than him giving his opinion.
Here's the thing I got to say about that. What do you care? So what?
I don't care, but I just see a lot of folks like, oh, here he goes opening his mouth again, and I'm like,
yeah,
dude, I wish I had. I hope when I've been in the industry as long as he has, I still have the same amount of passion.
Yeah. So the thing I always say, and about those Image guys, and we can, there's 7 of them, so there's a big range of them, and we've really strayed off topic here. They had something. They had a mystique about them. Rob was one of the more powerful ones as far as Rob had some kind of mystique in his art that fans liked. And so you can talk about, you don't like him, he can't draw feet, whatever. All of those things don't really matter because the greater fandom liked Rob and liked his work. And so, when you're trying to sell comics, that's kind of what matters,
I actually liked Rob Liefeld's stories because I always thought they were like balls to the wall action.
Yeah.
I always liked that. Straight up, his drawing, I understood like he has a specific style. The only thing that surprised me about Rob is his artwork has never changed. I'm not going to say improve or get worse. It's not, but it's never changed.
Yeah.
And you would think like as somebody who draws as much as like he has, he would see some sort of change, but you don't. And there's other artists like this. I'm not just picking on Rob. There's other artists like this that you just draw and draw and draw, and it's like. But you don't accidentally figure like, oh, that's how you like Rob, like, oh,
that's how you draw feet.
I figured it out. Look, you just figure it out. It's like he just, and I'm just like, oh, that's interesting. I mean, I could sit there and badmouth Rob's art because sure has problems like everyone else. He's making more money than me, so what the hell do I have to say about it? I mean, it's like,
there's a lot of jealousy, that to this day. And, and I don't know if Pete heard the one episode, but he talks about, and the thing that blew me away is, when he talks about how his father had a brain tumor, and his father was in a coma for like half a year or something like that. And the only thing he had in the office was in the doctor's office was reading comic books to make him happy, and that's what drove him and pushed him all those years. You go, okay, there's a lot more to this story than just not having an issue drawing feed or all this stuff. I mean, you really understand the perseverance when you listen to his podcast, and a lot of respect.
No, I have nothing. I did see there was some stuff that I saw Rob steal whole, and he didn't really think. One was okay. So I was a big fan of Appleseed, and if you guys ever read Appleseed, it was an old manga, whatever. And then I was reading Image Comics. All of a sudden, certain elements of Appleseed started popping up in his art, and I'm like, well, he's discovered Matsumune Shiro. And then I was like, yeah, but he's not really understanding why he put. Okay, so I see it, but it's like it didn't really fit with his characters, and stuff. And but it was funny because I remember I'm like, that's Brios's ears. Got it. Okay, that was one of characters. But yeah, I started figuring that out. I'm like, okay. Influences and stuff.
I've seen Rob at conventions be super generous to kids who come up at his table and just geek out. And if you look at him, you're thinking, man, those are really annoying kids. But Rob just smiles and he's kind to them. Yeah. And yet they go two tables over and talk to someone else, and the person there is just a complete jerk. So. Yeah, I got, like I said, we could critique him and critique his art. That's a completely different thing. But I don't understand all the grief he gets, because, like I said, in my experience, he's been nothing but a very generous, very good guy.
Yeah. So speaking, I was a big Jim Lee fan, and I personally, and this is my own personal taste, so internet take me kindly, I think his artwork has actually deteriorated some over the years because I feel he's gotten more stiff.
Yeah.
When I look at his old art, it seemed to be much more. There was a sort of solidity to it, and the cross hatching and some of the poses. Like he's obviously not a slouch, but there's certain was like, yeah, you kind of lost whatever energy you had back then. Like, and I think that just comes from doing it over and over and over again. He has certain habits that come to solidify.
I have a theory on that.
I can see that happening.
Yeah.
I have a theory. You want to hear it?
Go for it.
Is this safe for the internet, Roland?
No, it is. It's absolutely safe for the internet. So my theory goes back to the Marvel versus DC thing. Anybody who's talked to me at any moments about scripting knows that I'm a big fan of the Marvel method, and I think if you look at Jim's work at on the X-Men, they were doing things Marvel method. Jim is like, hey, Jim, here's what's happening. Jim had the ability then to take what was given to him and make it go wild, choosing the shots, the angles, the panels, and that kind of thing. Where when he goes to DC, which is where he's been, the last buku years.
Yeah, how many decades?
Yeah, he works from full scripts. And
since he sold Wildstorm.
Yeah.
I can see that.
So that's my theory. I have no proof whatsoever.
It could be.
But, I just think that Tommy says you guys trying to get in trouble.
Yeah. Well, I think I liked Mark Silverstreet. I thought his old X-Men stuff was great. There was such a gestural quality to it. And then he's gotten more stiff. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just I prefer his older stuff than his new stuff. But just to see the evolution of artists. And I think that, again, that just comes with if you're doing this over and over again, you're going to start getting those mental habits.
Yeah, and I think there's some truth in that as well.
Yeah.
You kind of, once you've drawn so many pages, I don't know, that maybe we should see did that ever happen to Jack Kirby? Once you've drawn so many pages, though, I mean, how many times can if a writer says, "Give me an over-the-shoulder shot of a two-shot,"
right?
I mean, how many different ways can you draw that?
Yeah.
Well,
there was
even growth, right? And
yeah,
it's growth.
Yeah.
It's like I saw Dave Gibbons at Comic-Con a couple years back, and he had this amazing discussion, and Dave Gibbons goes, he went to figure drawing classes or life drawing classes with his daughter, and he goes, he realized in that moment how much he has this catalog of how a face is supposed to look, how this is supposed to look, and how he kind of goes on autopilot and does that. And he said going to art lessons, life drawing with his daughter reminded him of that, and that art's more about seeing and observing than it is necessarily about the gesture of drawing. and how and I think a lot of creators fall into that rut, right? You have your stockpile of stock footage that you pull out, and you forget about that hunger to reinvent and to keep learning, and it's
I'm guilty. I'm
Yeah.
guilty of that in my own art. Obviously, I mean, those are just certain things that come about. Same. So try to mix up the faces somewhat, and it's like, well, how many different ways can you do a grimace or sad face or whatever? So yeah. I mean, it's especially when you're just in your story in the head. But yeah, I'm guilty. But it's like how do you do like how many things like that? But yeah, going and seeing different like faces or going to the figure drawing, life drawing, it pulls you out of that. It reminds you of different things.
That's also why I think doing different stories, doing different types of stories. Draw big robots one time, and then and then the next time draw unicorns. Why anybody would ever want to draw unicorns, I don't know, but that's what I'm saying.
But
if you call them sword horse, it's a little more epic.
Sword horse.
But then you run the risk of being like one of those bands that go, okay, I know you want to hear our favorite song, but we're going in this totally new direction. So just listen to this, and they get booed off the stage.
That's a great example, Curtis, because I don't know if anyone's ever heard Queen's Hot Space, but it was a hot mess. I mean,
oh yeah, 70s Queen, like 80s Queen. You can see them all of a sudden. I'm like, where's the guitar? Now it's all this
synthesizer.
Yeah. I mean, it's still good stuff, but like you listen to Radio Gaga compared to like.
Well, they had that one album that was terrible. It just had all this pseudo disco stuff, and you're like, what the heck? Where's Brian May's guitars? I mean, what is going on? Yeah, it's one of those that you wanted to take outside and fling like a frisbee. Sorry, I'm still remembering my vinyl days. I mean, that's a good point.
I was thinking with all these artists doing the same thing over and over or getting stiff, I have to remember Campbell with his very distinctive way of drawing women.
Who?
And Campbell.
J. Scott Campbell.
Oh, okay, yeah, J. Scott Campbell, yeah.
And everybody knows like he always drew this I don't know, the same face, the same pose, the same portions, whatever. But at some point, I think it was my teacher. It's just like, have you seen his personal website though? And so we went there, and he has a whole bunch of stuff that's beautiful, and like you see his stroke, his style, but it's a completely different thing from what he does on comics.
Yeah. Oh wow!
So the conversation went into does he draw like that because that's what people pay him for?
Yes.
And what's the difference? Like how much of an artist for yourself you can be compared to what people want you to be as an artist?
And I think
it became a whole conversation. Yeah.
And I think that is one of the biggest challengers that we have as creators have, is that are we creating to sell the most product that we can, or are we creating art? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's
it's a challenge.
It is a challenge. Yeah, it is a challenge.
It's a personal challenge because you're like, do I do it or not?
Yeah, it is a fine line. That's
why
like,
I like to eat my Big Macs, and if nobody buys my stuff, I can't eat Big Macs.
Exactly. It's funny because I think I, maybe draw a little bit, but then I don't know. I posted this picture on Facebook, and you guys may have seen it, like more surrealistic. And I have a whole series of like these life drawings, surrealistic, which lets me, stretch my creativity outside of the comic book and storytelling. Literally, instead of drawing to adhere to a story or an idea, I'm just drawing for the pure idea, playing with shapes and ideas. And I've noticed it started to help me see things in different ways. So
Tommy says here, he goes, I think he's going back to the image guys. He says, I think it's that or the guys who aren't changing. I think it's they're drawing the stuff they wrote for the most part. You need someone writing your stories, meaning you might not know. Wait a minute, you might not knowing be writing stuff. You easily can draw.
I think what he's saying is somebody else writes your stories are going to challenge you to draw stuff that you may not have thought of.
Yes.
angle.
Yes. Not challenging
pushing.
yourself. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Eric Dotson says Under Pressure came from that Queen album, but then again, so did Body Language. Yes, that was the one. Oh my goodness. The best song
You
on
can
that.
always pick something good out of.
Oh,
Now I know what they get Roland for his
No,
birthday.
no,
A
no, no,
recording
no,
of
no,
that, and we
no.
can hide it somewhere in
Under-
this room and just play very
no.
softly. That song
Listen,
on repeat.
there was one good song on that album, and Under Pressure is not the one I'm thinking of. There was one good song on there, and it was called "Put Out the Fire," and it was a Brian May song. But the rest of that song, man, I mean the rest of that album, no way. So Sid has quit sharing, so I guess that means it's time for us to call it a night.
Oh, hold on, Sid.
Already?
I'm
What?
sorry. No, it's just I think I'm gonna have to start this page over.
Yeah,
I misread the light source. Shut up, Peter.
What? Start it over.
I was just
No,
thinking
just the
that.
render.
You was
Yeah.
thinking that she
I
should
think
start it
I
over, Pete?
mistook the light source, and it's bothering me a lot. So I think it's like I'm gonna have to start over, and maybe I'm overthinking this.
Well, put it back on screen.
That's what I do. What I do.
Put it back
No,
on
it's
screen
just
and
that
explain to you
I'm
what's bothering you. Let me take a look at it.
Is
Thank you, Cassisi.
Roland, are we paying Sid by the hour? Is this what she thinks?
Yeah.
I guess
you were just a
time's
penciler.
run out. Okay, so I think in here, if I'm not wrong, in this
Oh my
part
God.
of the story, Peter, I swear to God. Don't worry, guys. Just for you to know, Peter and I have this long history of
Hey, that guy's
insulting each other.
that guy's
Okay.
purple.
I'm gonna kill you.
Is he meant to be purple? You got that right?
All you got to do is look at Peter and go, "Aren't you just a penciler?"
Just a penciler.
You know
Yeah.
what? I
I
should say
can't do the colours.
Okay, so I remember in the script, some time has passed by from the beginning of the story, because we have this situation with these two bands in combat, and now we're back at Bakuman, and I understand this some time has passed, like in terms of days, between that first instance with this part. I don't want to tell a spoiler, so I'm like holding myself. So I think if some time has passed by, the light could be also in a different angle, because they're from outside, so there's a light source, there's a sun. So I'm thinking maybe I should not use the same light source I used in the other pages and just change it entirely.
You could.
Sure.
You also have to ask yourself: with the reader, is it going to affect the story?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
that's
And I'm not many modes so far ahead, so I think
Yeah.
it's not going to be a problem for me to start over with the shadows. It's just one. It's not a problem for me.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
I mean,
I'm gonna do
I
that.
can see what you're saying. It looks. I mean, obviously, it's I would say Twilight in your scene.
It's because I have it like that, but you can see the inks are on this side, and in the previous pages, the sun was in from behind them.
Behind them, okay.
So I think maybe sometime actually I can take it as time has passed by, the sun moved, so I can just use the angle we're looking at.
Tommy said maybe it's bad inks.
It could be because if you're saying the sun is behind them, if you look down into the middle panel, the sun looks like it's actually because that long cast shadow.
Yeah.
I would say the sun is probably to the left.
Yeah. So I think I'm just going to rethink it. I'm not so far into this page yet, so it doesn't
unless
hurt.
the cast shadows come from the other thing. Yeah. I don't know. That's harder. I mean, like I said, if it's going to keep you calm, because God knows I've been an artist knowing like that's going to bother me and I'm never going to sleep tonight. Definitely change it. But yeah.
What is just the penciler thing?
Yeah. It is just a penciler thing.
The penciler can go back to his coffee.
I may have that may be the credits for Pete. Just the penciler.
Just the penciler.
That's what
I would definitely put it in there.
Just the penciler.
We'll put it in a shirt.
The magic happens. The magic happens after I've touched the page.
You need a new cap that says "I'm just a penciler."
Just a penciler. That's right.
Take mine, Silverline. I'm just a penciler.
If you want to know the light source, to me, if you look at the light source in the bottom, it actually now look at the cast shadows and the characters in the middle panel. The cast shadows are actually casting to the left, so your light source is going to be coming from your right.
Yeah, so I'm gonna
Say
tweak it.
right
It's just a
angle.
different day, and it already has the establishing shot here.
Yeah.
It says here, this we're in this area now. So
Yeah.
I think
I'll
as
just
long
do
as
it again. It's not a problem.
as long as the
They are-
hue is different, you know, and serves the story, I wouldn't worry too much about
Yeah.
it, you know. It's
Yeah,
more
that's
you
about
my
also
the
gotta
mood.
problem.
remember-
I think so much about it.
Oh yeah, I know.
This
Yeah.
project for me has been a great help because it has helped me a lot through that. Because in the first pages, I would spend so many hours in things, and then I'd be like, "That's not important."
Yay.
Now I'm struggling a little more because I need to remember and to reread the plot again to remember what's happening here and there. But before, I would struggle a lot, so much more. Now I can just go in and
Yeah.
go through the pages.
Well,
I will tell
they
you,
are looking
the-
great.
They are looking
it's looking really good.
fantastic. The number one
Looking
thing that
excellent.
cure you, and that cured me of any sort of like worrying about this stuff, is when I watch somebody read my comic. When you see how fast somebody reads your
Yeah,
book, you'll be like,
lost for it.
none of that stuff made any difference. No one cared. It just no. When they read it like done, it's like, all right, yeah. I was worrying
That's a
about
good point.
nothing.
That's a good point, Aaron. It's like somebody's gonna look at like the light source changed and they just throw it on.
Yeah.
the ground.
Listen,
I'm not even
I-
gonna
But you know what thing is that I'm that kind of reader too. I'm not a horrible reader
Yeah.
because this is not making sense. And it's like, if I notice it, probably other people notice too.
Listen,
No.
it's so funny,
Wow.
Sid. I can't tell you the number of times I've had conversation with an artist that said that they'll tell me, all right, you know, and I'm just going to use these times as examples, so don't hold. But they'll say, yeah, you know, I'll do one page in 8 hours. I'm okay, right? Well, when that 8 hours pass, I'll talk to them and say, well, really, I just need an extra 4 hours. So my question is always, okay, that extra 4 hours that you spent, does that mean that we're going to sell that many more copies because you spent that extra 4 hours on those pages, or is it really going to be kind of unnoticeable to anybody but you? And that's and this goes back to that idea of it's a fine line between, we got to remember we're doing, you know, entertainment. And yes, there are a lot of people say, well, we're creating art. Okay, well, yeah, maybe, but we're also creating entertainment, and there does come a point of, oh shoot, what some economy person help me here, some sort of point of diminishing return, something like that.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I had a kid's book. My second kid's book came out, and somebody online pointed out, hey, there's a word misspelled in the back. I'm like, oh crap, it's already been printed. So now I have a book out there with a misspelled word, and you just got to be like, well, you know, I guess
no.
that's
Say that that's part of the artwork, and it's the job of the colorist in the book to fix it.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's got extra points. You noticed.
I put that there for the
Oh.
kids to catch. This is
That's it.
Well,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
the
it's,
Hulk was
I'm
gray
like-
before he was green, right? And
This
it
is
went
true.
back to being gray, so you know, happy accident.
There's actually mistakes that I've seen that I actually looked at. I'm like, that's it. No, I don't want to fix that. I've actually left mistakes in because it's like, I'm going
Yeah.
for it. They'll figure it out.
And
I
you
don't
know,
care.
some of that too, you know, I was talking with Alex Gallimore about this as well. Some of it too becomes just as you gain some experience, because when you first start, you do absolutely want to, I'm going to make this absolutely the very best I possibly can, and if that means I got to spend another, you know, I don't sleep tonight, or I spend another 4 hours on this, I'm going to do it because I'm going to make it the absolute best that I can. And then, of course, the more you work on it, the more you realize, okay, I can cut this corner here, or I can cut this corner. You know, the more experience that you have, and this is with anything, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
But
so
I learned that from school too. That was a good training about it.
you
Well, that
know,
was my-
this is one of the reasons I love the Kubert School.
Yeah, because I
Because
remember
they-
my first assignments, and everybody went crazy. It's like, I just want you guys to make what was it, like a clear focus point on an illustration. And a guy came back with like a Godzilla in the middle of the city, and upshot, and this character with fire and stuff. And the teacher was like, "This guys wanted you to put like how to put an arrow in a circle. Like, I guess you
Yeah.
chill. You just started and don't burn yourself out like
Yeah.
this."
Tom-
And there is this.
Tommy said, "It looks beautiful, Sid." Next page.
Yeah.
No, I'm on the edge.
Moving on.
This flats. That's it. I'm out.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I watched a documentary on Die Hard, and there was a major mistake where they had to change the ending. One of the endings, they put this ambulance inside this truck they showed up in the beginning. And then they looked back at the beginning of the movie and said, well, we showed this scene with all these guys getting out of the same truck, no ambulance inside. And they talked to the director, should we fix this? And he's like, I don't give a crap. Let them figure it out. He just didn't care. He was like, we're not fixing that. They can figure it out, make up something. I'm done. I was like, that's after that. I'm like, if Die Hard can do that, no one's going to care what I do.
Okay, now I got to go back and look for that.
Now you got to go sit. Now you're going to notice it. I know.
Yeah. All right.
I
Well,
gotta watch it before Christmas.
yeah. All right, fellas. Fellas and gal, let's call this a night. Kurtis, tell everybody where they can find you on the interwebs.
Sure, you can find me it's Kurtis Fujita. You can find me on Facebook. You can also find me on YouTube, Instagram, and also on Facebook through my martial arts school. That's Tiger Crane Kung Fu, and it's on YouTube and Instagram is Tiger Crane 805.
Cool. Aaron, what about you? Where can folks find you on the interwebs?
Facebook, you can find me at Humphres Illustration, HUMPH, whatever. It's my last name, RES. Man, that was a mouthful. I have an Instagram handle, ALH3810. I'm also, Webtoons. I do my Goblins comic at Webtoons. I post my stuff on Facebook, all that good stuff. And if I'm forgetting something, you'll find it in the links below.
ALH is a lot easier to remember than HUMP.
Yeah, I know. I'm just like, great. It's only my name. That's okay.
We should all do like Barb and just have a little paper.
Yeah, just hold up. Here's my sign, right? Yeah. John, what about you? Where can folks find you on the interwebs?
All over social media. Of course, John Martin is my personal page. John Vampire Martin is my my artist page. John's Vampire Art. John Vampire Martin, some iteration of that. You can find that on Twitter or Instagram. And then, of course, also I have a Patreon page also.
And as a reminder to everyone listening to us give our links, I will put all the links that these guys have given me, I will make sure I put them in the information so that you can go click on them and look for them and find them. Sid, what about you? Where can folks find you online?
Currently, you can find me on my Instagram since I'm working on my other links. It's Sketchy Sid altogether. And good news, after like forever long time, I finally posted something new, so go check it out.
All right.
I'm excited about that. It's been forever. So.
And Pete, what about you?
Yeah, it's real simple. It's Peter Clinton Art, and that's Facebook.
With one R or two R's?
Well, how do you spell art?
Oh no, it's really I don't know.
Art.
I'm just messing.
Art with one R. With one R. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, it's all the same. And from there, you'll find links to everything else I've done and doing. But Instagram is the place for Champion Miss Fury teasers. Let's say teasers.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Excellent. And you can find me, Man Roland, on Twitter, which I'm not really there that often. Really haven't been on Facebook that much in the last couple of weeks, but you can find me on Facebook. Just look for the caricature that looks like my face, and you can find me. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow all the places that you can find Silverline. On Facebook, you can find us on Twitter, you can find us on YouTube. So be sure you do all those. Don't forget we have a merch store that you can find some some sweet Silverline merch. And if there's something that you want that you don't see on the merch store, let us know and we'll try to get it made. This Wednesday, you're gonna find the Wednesday. There's not gonna be a one-on-one tomorrow night. But Wednesday, you can find the Wednesday Wham crew back, and they're going to be talking about, and we're going to be talking about this next week as well, things I learned from comic books. This is the things that we learned from comic books. And we're not talking about fictional stuff. We're talking about like real stuff that we learned, and
Killing
it's-
is bad.
I get a feeling John's going to incriminate himself with some sort of activity.
Tommy said another great show, everyone. Thanks, Tommy.
Thank you.
And until then, we'll see you all next time. Remember to make mine
mine
Silverline.
Overline.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Ciao.
I remember how to stop.